The truth about autism and Tylenol. As you may have heard, the President of the United States of America recently made an announcement that
So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
Tylenol is a brand of what most of the world calls paracetamol, which I can buy from the supermarket for 4 cents a tablet. So naturally, the advice,
Don't take Tylenol. There's no downside. Don't take it.
caused a huge reaction, lots of people upset, urgent statements being issued left, right, and centre to try and correct misinformation. But if we take a breath and step back just a little bit, surprisingly, the facts of the situation, which I'll be sharing in this video, are actually incontrovertible. There's no argument here. Specifically, the facts I'll be covering are, number 1, what was said in the announcement, number 2, the basis of those claims, and 3, the public statements from international medical associations. Then, once we've got that sorted, we'll look at one more piece of the puzzle. Several groups, 3 actually, are very upset. So who are they and what are they saying about why they're upset? And yes, the autistic community is one of those groups, but there are also 2 others we can't forget about. Sound fair enough? Let's get into it. Hi everyone, Paul Mikulev here from Autism from the Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So let's jump straight into the truth about autism and Tylenol by starting with what was actually said in the announcement.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of acetaminophen, which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
And then in his concluding remarks, he re-emphasizes,
Don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it.
and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. That's what was said. The whole address is approximately 12 minutes, but these are the 2 statements that drew the biggest reaction. So now let's establish a basis for these claims before taking a look at the public responses from international health organizations. So the president is saying don't take Tylenol due to increased risk of autism. Where is this coming from? There are 2 research papers that have been all over the news about this. The first is the one the FDA is citing, published August this year. I'll leave links to all these below if you want to check them out for yourself. In case there's any confusion, acetaminophen is the name for paracetamol in the US. So Tylenol, acetaminophen, paracetamol, they all refer to the same thing. So this particular paper is a meta-analysis that looked at 46 pre-existing studies, and what they found is that 27 out of the 46 studies they looked at reported positive associations, that's the term they used, to neurodevelopmental disorders, of which autism is one. The study then concluded, quote, "Our analysis demonstrated evidence consistent with an association between exposure to acetaminophen during pregnancy and offspring with NDDs, including ASD and ADHD, although observational limitations preclude definitive causation." It goes on to say, and I quote again, that while this association warrants caution, untreated maternal fever and pain pose risks such as neural tube defects and preterm birth, necessitating a balanced approach. We recommend judicious acetaminophen use. So I'm not going to comment on these at the moment because we're just looking at the facts for now. The second research paper that you may have heard referenced was published in Sweden just last year. Quoting the paper itself, this one was conducted because several studies suggest that acetaminophen, i.e. paracetamol, use during pregnancy may increase risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. If true, this would have substantial implications for management of pain and fever during pregnancy. So they analysed data from approximately 2.5 million children born in Sweden from 1995 to 2019, and they found that, quote, acetaminophen use during pregnancy was not associated with children's risk of autism, ADHD, or intellectual disability in sibling control analysis. This suggests that associations observed in other models may have been attributable to familial confounding. What a great term, familial confounding. Anyway, so this is the research basis for the claims of an association between Tylenol use and autism. But what about the don't take it advice and the additional claim that there's no downside?
Don't take it. Don't take it. There's no downside in not taking it.
This is not found in either research paper. So where is it coming from? I don't think it's a stretch to say that this is his personal opinion. In the president's own words, in the middle of giving medical advice, he qualifies saying,
"This is based on what I feel."
So there we have it. The basis for these claims is what he feels. You know, common sense, that type of thing.
You know, life is common sense too. And there's a lot of common sense in this.
In other words, in his opinion, Tylenol causes autism.
I'm not a doctor, but I'm giving my opinion.
In his opinion, mothers should tough it out, those were his exact words, and avoid using Tylenol at all costs. Now, let's look at the response from the international medical community. So again, surprisingly, the response internationally was pretty straightforward. Official statements were released from just about every medical organization that you could think of. Examples include the World Health Organization, as well as governing bodies in Australia, Canada, the UK, and the European Union. I won't read them all. They all say the same thing. Here's just one example from Australia. The statement reads, Australia's Chief Medical Officer and the TGA join with other global medicines regulators, leading clinicians and scientists worldwide in rejecting claims regarding the use of paracetamol in pregnancy. And later on, I quote again, paracetamol remains the recommended treatment option for pain or fever in pregnant women when used as directed. Importantly, untreated fever and pain can pose risks to the unborn baby. ASFAR, the Australasian Society for Autism Research, also put together a very clear visual summary, which you can see here. So that's pretty clear. The entire global medical community seemed to be in agreement, but what about the US? I deliberately saved them till last so that no one could accuse me of political bias, but again, I went looking and as far as I can tell, everyone agrees on the facts of the research. Here are just two examples from within the US. The first is from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, who write in their statement, in the more than 2 decades of research on the use of acetaminophen in pregnancy, not a single reputable study has successfully concluded that the use of acetaminophen in any trimester of pregnancy causes neurodevelopmental disorders in children. And secondly, the FDA's letter to physicians, the one mentioned directly in the announcement,
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians.
It says, to be clear, a causal relationship has not been established and there are contrary studies in the scientific literature. It goes on to say that acetaminophen is the safest over-the-counter alternative in pregnancy. So even in the FDA notification itself, there seems to be no disagreement on the medical evidence. So, quick summary before we move on to the next part. Number 1 is that the global medical community unanimously and unambiguously recommends that mothers take paracetamol, acetaminophen, Tylenol, whatever you want to call it, as directed during pregnancy, emphasizing that in some cases not taking it could be very harmful. The second thing we know is that the president disagrees. His advice is don't take it. He does not believe there are any downsides. At least that's what he said quite directly in the announcement. Alright, how are you going? So far so good? So the next obvious question is, what impact does this have? How does this announcement affect the real lives of real people? Specifically, there are 3 groups who are the most affected. Can you guess who they are? Unfortunately, we've run out of time in this video today. It's a big question, so I'll have to make a follow-up next week to ensure that it gets covered properly. Again, from a relatively objective point of view, who are these groups that are so upset, and what are they themselves saying about why they're upset? So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you're notified when that's released. I'll come back and leave a link below as well once it's done. But for now, I'm curious what you thought of this video. Was it what you expected? Did it answer your questions? Do you have more new unanswered questions? Leave a comment below if you can, and I'll bear all that in mind for next week. Otherwise, I better leave it there. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next week. Bye. If you got any value out of this video, please consider supporting this channel financially on Patreon. Any non-zero contribution, no matter how small, makes a big difference. Thanks.